Hello guys, and you may notice the audio quality is a little bit different, and that's because I'm recording from a different location today. Haha. So, anyway, today we're gonna move on to a little bit of English. Um, it's one of my favorite subjects as well, because it's just the wonders of literature and language, and just the English language as a whole is a very fascinating journey for me. So anyway, this is the IGCSE stuff. So you'll have to do. Today I'm going to talk about creative writing. So creative writing, as the name implies, you'll be asked to write something that's basically from your own imagination. So for example, some tasks below some tasks that you may be required to write, such as moving images. So writing for a film or TV program, so like a TV program review or like a film review here, as we can see in this picture. Recreations, taking a text in its original form and transforming it into another form. So for example, you're given a poem and you have to turn it into a story, or you're given a story and you have to turn it into a poem, or even a newsletter or something. It's anything. Narrative writing, writing some fiction, something original, basically writing a story. Writing writing from personal experience, semi-autobiographical or autobiographical. So just tell your story. It's like a Twitter feed, but less profound. So commissions, so like a set brief and instructions and stuff, like an opinion piece for newspaper. So here are some things that you must pay attention to. So content, because what you actually write, so you have to write the correct thing. Organization, your structure must be clear so that nobody gets confused and the examiner doesn't like put you off for points or something. Effects, so how would you grab the reader's attention and send your message? So are you able to uh, are you able to grab the audience's attention and convey your embedded message? Accuracy, how well you use the grammar, spelling, and diction. So how well you write, just write good, basically. Genre, what form are you writing in? So is it a letter, a story, or an article? Because remember, you can't mix up your genre. If you mix up your genre, you're dead already. Because if you're asked to write a letter and you write a story, you're dead. So anyway, purpose. Why do you write this? Is it to give an opinion, to provide a review, or to persuade people? It could be a PSA, public service announcement. Audience, who are you writing it for? Of course, this is important because you wouldn't write something for adults in a kiddie kind of styles like "Hey kids" or something like that. So it's quite simple, really. Style, how are you writing it? Are you writing it in an informal tone or a formal tone, casual, chatty, whatever? So, of course, you wouldn't be writing a letter to a company with a very casual, "Hey, what's up?" that kind of tone. So, moving on to moving images. So, some examples of them. So, as I've mentioned before, write a film. You might be asked to review a film, write a voiceover, or even write a script for a film. So I'm a film student, so ha 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 ha. When I did my IB, I did film studies HL. So ha, yeah, it's kind of yeah. Anyway, so a film review has several different purposes. It is a film review is written to inform, to describe, to analyze, and to advise. They are mainly written by film critics who want to provide an objective and detailed, not detailed, but like a pretty comprehensive overview of the said production. So to either encourage or to discourage viewings at various screenings. So to inform. The review needs to at least inform people of the starring actors, screening venues, and the director. It makes sense because you need to know. Most people want to know who, if it's a famous director that's directing the film, any famous actors in the film, and where can we see it and stuff. To describe, the review obviously should describe the plot, characters, and some memorable events, so to attract the reader's attention, but not give away spoilers. So no spoilers. So you have to tease the audience in a way. To analyze, a good film review is written by a film critic, as I've said before, hence it should involve minor analyzation and opinion of whether the film is good or bad. Of course, people always listen to like film reviews and stuff. You can check out like Roger Ebert's film reviews and stuff. They should provide a good structure of how to make a good film review. To advise, obviously, should the audience see the film or should they not see the film? Sometimes you have ratings, so like 3 out of 5 stars or something like that. You can keep that in mind. So, audience, who is the target audience for your piece? If you're writing for an adult publication for films or a kids publication, you have to think about that. So, what diction and tone does your magazine that contains the film review use? So, yeah, see the above. Pay attention to your demographic. So in other forms of media, though, film reviews pop up from time to time on TV, entertainment channels, or radio. So, given that they're to entertain, they should maintain the purpose of reviewing, but also just give some banter and humor. So, because they want it's voice and it's not text, so you have to find a way to describe it nicely and in a very captive way. So some film language that you might want to include. So performance, direction, editing, cinematography, music and SFX, music and sound effects, special effects, sorry, SFX and FX, and camera angles. So performance, mainly used to describe how the actors and characters, like how they go about in the film, so how well they act. Direction, referring to the director as per the word itself and how well the plot is conveyed or told, because you are directing the film. You are putting the film in the direction. Hence, you are conveying the plot in a certain way, a certain direction. Hence the word. English is lovely. So, editing. This is my strong point as I'm an editor. Haha. So, referring to how the film is put together. So, how well it's cut, how well it's made, basically. Is it a high quality production? Cinematography, how the film is presented, so various framing, so like is this like it wouldn't be an out of focus shot or like a very beautiful long range mountain shot or something like that. Music and sound effects, I don't need to explain much because it works. Does the music work? Do the sound effects work? Special effects, so like CGI, so like Michael Bay films, explosions, whatnot. Camera angles, various positions and directions of the camera, so for example, close-ups, extreme long shots, mid shots, Dutch angles. So like Dutch angles are like tilted angles. So anyway, documentary and voiceover. So narration or voiceovers are usually used to inform people. So you might find them in PSAs or like charity groups and environmental stuff, because like it's expensive to like make a production. So you have to sorry, excuse me. It's expensive to film like a small video. So it's cheaper to just like pay some very meaningful clips and then just narrate over them. So yeah, and purpose is very important in this because as per my typed example, if you're talking about road safety, then you might want to highlight the benefits. So yeah, just be very concise and straight to the point. So for a voiceover, it's self-explanatory because when you write a script, you need to include all the details to make the production as smooth as possible. You need a date, self-explanatory, because like you have a broadcasting date, you have a date that you want to produce, so it's for formality purposes. Images, self-explanatory, so like let the images convey your message. A picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say, so don't describe them. So client and audience, the program and target audience. Obviously, you need to aim for the proper demographic again. Title should summarize your content because like it's short and concise. These are like usually very short. Music and SFX, as I've said, just see the above. It makes sense. Time, how long the voiceover lasts, because you need some timestamps. Words, sentences should be short and concise, easy to read and convey the point as per a PSA or like a charity group and stuff. So again, pay attention to the purpose. Does it truly fulfill it? Inform. Does it inform successfully? And persuade. Does it get people to follow the cause? Especially again, PSAs or charity groups. So like donating money to this and that. So commissioned writing is another thing you might want to take a look at, pay attention to, because it because if you see the word set brief, don't be afraid. It's not anything complicated. It just means instructions or criteria. Because commissioned writing basically means you are paid to write. So imagine if you're a writer, if you are paid to write, then your employer will give you set instructions on how to write or to write for what set of what framework. So it's just basically instructions. So pay attention to the following. for example, a newspaper, which is mostly what commission writing is for, or commission writing set brief is for. So what newspaper are they writing for? Will readers be interested? Which part of the paper are they writing for? So what are the newspaper's readers like? Formal, informal, simplex, simple or more complex, young or older vocabulary, so like for kiddies, or for like adults, or for like educated people, or for like tabloids and stuff. The key thing to remember is that if you're commissioned, you please stick to the brief. It makes sense because you're paid to follow instructions. If you don't follow the instructions, you get fired. So here, some types. News articles, self-explanatory, we read them every day, it's bog standard. Now feature articles are a little bit different because they are a little bit more in depth, and you can find them like usually page 2, because like they explore or analyze some reasons why an event happened. And here's here's an editorial. New opinion pieces and columns that were written by well-known writers and maybe on a newspaper for the entertainment or opinion value, because some writers are very well known and very well regarded for their opinions because they may be educated, they may have a certain humor to their speech, they may write it in such a way that captivates the audience, or they just may just be famous. So their editorials are included because and opinion pieces and columns, because some people do want to read the view of a person they particularly like to read from commonly. So it increases viewership and readership and whatever. A weekly newspaper opinion piece. So opinion pieces need to entertain by taking polar positions because they exaggerate the difficulty of simple everyday issues. So given that it's an opinion, so you have right-wing newspapers and you have left-wing newspapers, and you can find that the opinion pieces in between them are vastly different. And within the opinion columns, you may find that they have differing views. So for example, let's take again my famous example of road safety. Some guy would be all for sticking 100% to road safety and imposing heavy fines on those that don't, or some guy may be more lenient and some guys may be opposed to it. So you need to be clear that your subject is important to you, because again, it makes sense. If you're not even confident in what you're writing about, how will your audience want to read you? Again, they can see in the writing. So an online article for a website. Here, it's another genre, Wikipedia, haha. So it's another genre, so you need to ask yourself, how is it different? Because it's an interactive medium, it's the internet, you have buttons to press, it's a fast place. So it's an aggressive type of media because users don't want to linger, so you have to throw the information out to people. So the difference between newspapers and the main difference between newspapers and online articles is that online articles you can browse whatever you want, whenever you want, how you want. Newspapers only have a finite amount of information in one publication, and it's all laid out in it's designed for people who have time to sit down and just read. And Wikipedia and all the online articles are for people who are browsing. Browsing means let's look at the word browsing. It just means that you're flitting about here and there. You're not staying in one place. Hence, you need to grab everybody's attention. So, moving on, we're close to the end now, guys. Don't worry. So, narrator and voice. So, is the narration first person? Is someone in the story telling the reader directly? So, for example, if you're writing this creative writing unit thing, if you're writing, let's say, a letter or a fictional writing, a story or whatever, again, you may choose to use a narrator, you may not choose to use a narrator, that's fine. But should you choose a narrator, there are a couple different types. You've got first person, third person, and kind of FPS point of view. So, not FPS, but like a single character point of view. So, first person, so the character could be telling the story directly. So for example, Jim wakes up and just says that, like, today I woke up. It's like writing a diary and expressing one's own thoughts or feelings. Think about it that way. So again, if the narrator is a specific character, the character needs to be reflected properly. So for example, as I've written here, the comments might show the personality. So for example, if our guy Jim says to a person that is in need, oh, that guy's in trouble, I must help him. So it shows that it suggests that he may be a helpful and nice person. But if he sees a person in trouble and says, sod it, I'm not going to do anything, then it suggests that he is an indifferent and sociopath. So Third person. It's basically all. It's basically like, let's say, Thomas the Tank Engine. There's like a narrator that narrates what the trains are doing. So yeah, for example, "Oh no!" cried Thomas. "I feel hot and bothered." So the narrator is telling the audience what the characters are thinking. So I prefer, personally, I like these types because, but it's very hard to get right because you may make it too cheesy, or you may make it like it has a very high sorry, it has a very high potential to go wrong because you may over narrate. You may actually, the narrator may become just a computer typing out everything and every single detail. Try not to do that. If you can get it right, though, it's a very beautiful art of work. I recommend watching children's television programs to learn from. Seriously, you might learn a thing or two, especially um, British children's television programs, because it's more focused on language, and it's more not focused on language, but the language usage is marvelous, especially, yes, as I Thomas, because it's a very good way to learn. It's simple language, it's a simple structure, and you can adapt it very quickly. I recommend it. It's a pro tip from me. So, lastly, is the narration limited to a single character? So, like, it's not exactly first person, but it's more like it's like drifting in between first and second person. You get to describe the surroundings, you get to convey what the character is thinking, and you get to convey the situation in front of you. So it's useful for horror stories or mysterious tales. So like, imagine you're journeying around and you have to like constantly jump back and forth between the surroundings, describing the horrible surroundings, and your thoughts and the character's thoughts and stuff. It's something tricky, but if you can pull it off, again, it's well done. So some general points here. Plot is what turns the events into a story. It's the connection. A personal tip from me is to always think back and try to link everything together, because a good story a good story links everything together in such a way that there's cause and effect for everything. So what I like, for example, this is done very well in anime. Again, I'm going on a bit of a digression point because the writing skills of some people that write light novel of authors that are adapted into anime. Some people really do like them, like anime and light novels, because there's universal development. There's the development of the universe and surroundings. For example, something that's introduced early on in the story could like come back several arcs or several books later to haunt the main character. Who knows? And maybe it could be linked because it's a bad guy is related to a good guy that somehow becomes friends with the character. Linking makes everything interesting. That way, if there's a twist in the tale, it provides a contrast and it makes the people think back. A good novel should always invite people to think along and enjoy the experience, the universe, and action as it goes along. That's what good writing is, and I really like light novels, especially the novels written by Kazumi, who writes the Tuaru series. Please check him out. He's pretty damn good. So, yeah, on the digression, please use that for your writing. Characters, again, flesh them out, but don't over flesh them out. Make them distinct. Don't make them general. So, like, don't make it like Jim wears a red shirt. Bob also wears a red shirt. They'll go to work together. No, make them unique. So like one could be a bossy character, one could be a sappy character. They could wear different types of clothing. Their personalities could be vastly different, or they could be similar. Their names could mean something. This make them unique. Setting, again, please don't over describe, otherwise you become like a bloody like computer. You need to give a general idea. So like you could say like a dusty, dark alleyway, but don't say like this alleyway was littered with rubbish bins and lots of rubbish and litter. There was animals, there were rodents and insects everywhere. Every single brick was here and there. You can do that, but just limit it, please. Just make sure you give your idea is to throw the setting to the audience so the audience knows what is going on, when it is going on, how is it going on, and can just follow along with the general atmosphere, but don't over describe everything, otherwise the audience will think about the descriptions more than the actions and it just puts people off. Writing for effect. You should make sure that you include some literary devices because extra points. So again, use the box standard metaphor simile. So again, physical and descriptions and traits are very common. So like you could say a character runs very fast. So you can say she ran, she ran like a cheetah. So like just don't overuse them, otherwise you look like a cheesy tryout. So you'll be like saying, "Oh, this guy ran as fast as a cheetah. Uh, he was as strong as an ox. He was as powerful as a train." Something like that. Just don't do that. It becomes very cheesy and just puts people off again. Autobiography. So again, you're telling the story of the author's life, so aka you or the character that you're deciding to write about. Don't fall into the trap of again making everything too detailed. We don't want dates too much. We don't want places too much. We don't want your autobiography to be a bloody travel guide or like a sappy love story or something like that. Make it general in the beginning, flesh it out with details that you think are worth putting in, but don't say like, for example, "Oh, I went to this event at 8:30 p.m. They came back for a dinner that consists of steak and chips at 11:30 p.m." Don't do that. That's a bloody diary. You want to make it interesting. So you want, again, just like the previous writing for effect, you want to throw the idea out. You want the reader to follow along with your ideas and stories. You don't want them to like explode just because of the details and just be put off. Again, final pro tips. Facts can be dull, so please don't list them. Just don't bullet points. So like, he was strong, he was tall, he was extremely. He had this kind of detail on his face. He had a scar. Don't do that. That's a character sheet. That's like introduction videos. Be careful what you pick to write about, because if you're passionate about something, it makes sense. If you're passionate about something, it's very effective because you know what to do. You know what you want to express, and you can just easily think it out. Don't try to force yourself to write something that you're not familiar, or or you find it difficult. Treat writing from personal experience as you would other creative writing, because it doesn't have to be a report. Again, please spice it up. And as I mentioned, yeah, you can don't have to be truthful. You don't have to tell 100% the truth. You are not, the examiner doesn't want to listen to your look at your life story. The examiner wants to see how you can write for effect. The examiner wants to see how you can make it interesting. Spice things up. It's fictional in the end, hence the term creative writing. You can put some truth into it if it helps you, because then again that's what autobiography is. But please, again, I'm emphasizing this so much because many students fall into this trap. I've seen many people fall. It's hilarious. Don't make it 100% truthful. Make things interesting. Trust me, it works. Your voice. The voice is the tone and style in which you write. So the personality behind the writing, because many of the tasks will enable you to speak straight to the leader. So as I put here examples, letter to the friend, so you can create a much more intimate atmosphere, because like you're treating the reader as your friend. You want to perfect your voice. You want to show that, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm writing as this guy writing a letter to a friend. I'm writing as an opinion columnist. I'm writing as an autobiographist. You want to show that you are in control. How you write your voice, the tone and style, shows how well in control you are. Because if you're shaky and you keep going back and forth, again, it shows you're not competent enough. And again, lastly, symbolism, especially in attire. You might talk about a guy wearing a sharp suit, indicating that he may be rich. You might talk about a woman who always wears the latest trend, suggesting she's flashy and hip person. This is very useful in, for example, creating story settings. For example, a news report talking about contrasting how, for example, a guy, a murderer, has like done something, an event or something. It's very useful for people, very useful for descriptions, very useful for settings and stuff. It will bring you extra points in the narrative writing and the autobiography, because it shows that you can pick up on details and you can use symbolism, a minor point, to convey the message that the person is this that, instead of saying, oh, he wore these brand of pants, he wore this brand of suit, he wore this type of jewelry. No, don't do that. You want to there's a general, here's, I leave you with this like kind of maxim that I do for English. It's from SK2. Less is more. Seriously, a condensed, not concise or condensed, but like George Orwell once said, if you can cut a word out, if it's possible to cut a word out, please cut it out. Less is more. Use what you have, be resourceful to convey your meaning. That is what good English is about. Okay, so I think I've covered everything. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. So bye bye. Thanks for watching. And I hope this is like English video, so like do not put off or anything. Bye bye.